Usually when we think about upgrading our lives with new technology, we picture moving into something that's just fundamentally better.
Right, like an upgrade.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Imagine you just moved into this fully furnished, totally futuristic luxury apartment.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's stunning. Everything is voice activated. The climate is, perfectly controlled. No keys required anywhere. It's just this absolute dream of convenience.
Sounds pretty ideal.
It does. But then, like a few weeks into living there, you realize your landlord doesn't just own the building. They're tracking the exact millisecond you open your fridge.
Wow.
Yeah, and they can change the digital locks on your front door from literally a continent away without any notification.
That's not great.
And the most unsettling part, you aren't actually allowed to keep anything you bring inside.
Right.
It's all just borrowed, completely contingent on your lease agreement. Which brings us to welcome you to today's deep dive.
We are dissecting a pretty provocative critique today. It's a piece titled, "Is Digitalization a Good Thing?"
And the overarching mission here for this deep dive is to kind of challenge an assumption that, honestly, we rarely even question anymore.
Yeah, most of us operate under this universal consensus that moving toward a paperless, fully digitized, automated world it's an unambiguous victory for humanity.
Like it's a clear win no matter what.
Exactly. So we are going to look under the hood of these centralized digital systems to really understand what we are actually trading away in exchange for all that seamless convenience.
I mean, I have to admit, I love the convenience.
Oh, for sure.
Like, I really don't miss hauling heavy boxes of CDs every time I move. And having all my tax documents on a single hard drive is vastly superior to, digging through a rusty filing cabinet.
Right? It saves so much space.
It really does. I'm definitely someone who totally bought into the idea that ditching physical media like paper, cassettes, DVDs, even those long physical receipts, was just the natural evolution of shedding clutter.
But the source text points out that that clutter was also proof of absolute ownership.
Oh, that's an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah, because when you trade physical objects for the cloud, you are actually trading ownership for an ongoing, highly fragile licensing agreement.
A licensing agreement?
Yeah, think about the architecture of buying a digital movie today.
Okay.
You click purchase, your card is charged, and, a little thumbnail appears in your library.
Right, and it feels like I own it. It's in my library.
It feels like it, yeah. But under the hood, you've really merely purchased a cryptographic token.
Really?
Yeah, so every time you hit play, your device has to execute a digital rights management or DRM handshake.
Okay, a handshake. What does that actually mean?
It means it actively pings a remote licensing server just to verify that your token is still valid before it plays the video.
Wait, so if my internet goes down or, I don't know, their server crashes...
Handshake fails.
And I can't watch the movie I bought.
Exactly. The file on your device remains encrypted and is completely unplayable. It is essentially digital deadweight at that point.
Oh, wow.
You don't possess the asset, you just possess a conditional link to the asset.
Okay, let me push back on that, though.
Sure.
Because a physical DVD can get scratched.
Yeah, right, true.
Or my house could flood, and I'd lose my entire physical library in an afternoon. Isn't this dependency on the cloud a fair trade for the security of knowing? Like, Amazon or Apple has a massively redundant server farm keeping my movies safe from physical destruction.
Well, the author argues that it replaces localized physical risk with systemic digital risk.
Systemic digital risk.
Yeah, so what happens if, say, a geopolitical conflict erupts and a country blocks the domain name of your content provider?
Oh, like internet censorship.
Right. The underlying servers at Amazon or Apple might be perfectly fine, but the DNS routing is severed.
So I just can't reach the server to do the handshake.
Exactly. And because you can't simply download a DRM-free MP4 of that movie and burn it to a disk or back it up to a thumb drive.
Which they don't let you do anymore.
They do not. So your access is entirely contingent on the health of the global internet routing table.
So if the domain gets firewalled, my entire digital library just evaporates.
It's just gone. And we see this vulnerability extend far beyond just, media libraries. It extends into our actual identities on these platforms.
Yes.
There's this really fascinating metaphor used in our source material where the user is described as nothing more than a .js or JavaScript file to these massive tech conglomerates.
A .js file.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair to the technical reality, user profiles aren't literally executing JavaScript files.
No, they aren't.
But the metaphor points to something very real. We are essentially just a JSON object, or like a single row in a massive NoSQL database
Right, and the underlying database mechanics make the metaphor incredibly poignant.
because it's so fragile.
Exactly. Think about a traditional physical business. Terminating a relationship with a customer requires human intervention, paperwork, and usually, an actual conversation.
Right, you have to talk to a manager or something.
But in a centralized database, a user's entire digital existence is tied to a simple Boolean flag.
A true or false flag.
Yes. So a machine learning algorithm running automated moderation heuristics flags some kind of anomaly in your behavior,
Even by mistake.
often by mistake, and it just flips an IS active status from true to false. Instantly, thousands of cascading database rules execute.
And your purchase history, your family photos, your communication logs, all of it is just rendered inaccessible in milliseconds.
It's just gone. We've seen high-profile cases of long-time users, people who had been on these platforms for over a decade,
Right.
triggering some invisible algorithmic tripwire. And there is no warning, no human review beforehand. The suspension is automated and instantaneous because, again, you are just a string of data governed by billions of invisible parameters.
And when that catastrophic database deletion happens, the natural human instinct is to call someone to fix it, right?
Of course.
We want to explain the misunderstanding to a real person. But we've essentially automated the customer service out of existence, too.
We really have.
We are seeing a massive reduction in human interaction across the board. Tutors, coaches, bank tellers, and especially customer support. They've all just been replaced by digital interfaces.
And the justification usually given for this is economic efficiency. You hear companies say, well, machines don't take breaks and they scale infinitely.
It's always about scale.
Right. But the text points out a massive economic irony at play here.
Which is?
The infrastructure required to run global centralized AI, those complex interactive voice response systems, and massive sensor networks, it is astronomically expensive.
I mean, server farms require massive cooling infrastructure.
Huge amounts of water and power.
Right, dedicated power grids and constant hardware cycling.
Yeah, so we assume the machine is cheaper than the human, but they are spending billions on data centers just to avoid paying human wages.
And the user experience we get in return is, frankly, agonizing.
It's terrible.
It really feels like we've replaced a human being who could throw you a life preserver with a robot that just keeps asking you to clearly state the exact dimensions of the boat you're drowning from.
That is the perfect analogy. And it comes down to the difference between simple pattern matching and true contextual synthesis.
Say more about that.
Think about the architecture of an automated phone system. Even the most advanced conversational AI right now is fundamentally just mapping your audio input to a predefined decision tree.
It's just following a script.
Right. So if your problem sits outside of those predefined nodes, the system is completely blind to it.
Which is exactly why companies started removing the keypad options.
Yes.
We used to be able to just mash 0 repeatedly to bypass the decision tree and get a human operator.
Everyone did that.
But when people complained about how bad the automated systems were, companies didn't improve the human access. They literally removed the keypad failsafe and forced us to speak to the machine.
Because a human operator has the capacity for lateral thinking and the machine doesn't.
Right.
If you call a bank with a really complex fraud issue and, I don't know, a dog is barking loudly in the background.
A human agent naturally filters out the noise.
Exactly. They filter the noise, they synthesize the urgency of your voice, and they can instantly route you outside standard protocols to get you help.
Whereas an automated system requires perfect input to navigate its rigid logic gates.
Perfectly said. When you remove the human, you completely remove the elasticity required to solve all those edge cases.
So we've traded ownership for server handshakes, and we've traded human empathy for logic gates.
That's a good way to summarize it.
But this centralization, it doesn't just live out there in customer service centers or distant cloud servers. It has marched straight through our front door.
It really has.
We're talking about the smart home ecosystem now. Wi-Fi routers, air conditioners, TVs, washers, lighting, thermostats, refrigerators.
The sheer volume of networked appliances in a standard home is just staggering now.
And consumer choice is rapidly disappearing, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Try finding a high-end television without a proprietary smart operating system baked into the hardware. It is nearly impossible.
You just can't buy a dumb TV anymore.
Right. Manufacturers are heavily incentivized to push connected devices because the hardware itself is no longer the primary revenue stream for them.
The hardware is just the entry point.
Yes. The device acts as a Trojan horse for data telemetry and ongoing subscription models.
And the business models are incredibly deceptive.
Very.
You buy a piece of hardware that is marketed as fully functional, right?
Yeah.
But then specific features are geofenced or software locked unless you pay a recurring subscription.
Exactly.
You essentially have to lease the functionality of a physical object sitting in your own living room.
But beyond the economics, the source text points out a fundamental architectural flaw in how these devices actually route data, which brings massive privacy implications.
Okay, break that down for me.
Well, when you use an app on your phone to turn on a smart light bulb in your living room, you probably assume the signal simply travels from your phone to your home Wi-Fi router and straight to the bulb.
Right. It's all happening on my local network, right?
Okay. In most consumer-grade smart home ecosystems, no.
Wait, really?
Yeah. Setting up local device-to-device communication requires specific protocols like MQTT or configuring MDNS.
Which is way over the head of the average user.
Exactly. It can be complicated. So manufacturers just bypass local routing entirely. They design the light bulb to maintain a persistent connection to their corporate cloud servers,
Oh, wow.
usually hosted in an AWS data center hundreds of miles away.
So when I tap my phone, the command leaves my house, travels across the internet to a server farm, and then that server pings back to my house to tell the bulb to turn on.
That is exactly how it works. It solves the technical headache of local network configuration for the company, but it means every single interaction you have with your physical environment is logged externally.
That's terrifying.
The manufacturer has a real-time database of when you wake up, when your house is empty, how often you open your refrigerator, and when you do your laundry.
Is this why my smart toaster needs the Wi-Fi password?
Yes.
Just feels like putting a digital padlock on my toaster. I literally have to ask a corporate server for permission and provide a log of my activities just to make breakfast in my own kitchen.
And they claim it's because our home networks aren't configured for complex local routing. But the ultimate result is that these service providers have a behavioral profile on you that is far more detailed than anything you could construct about yourself.
And all of that behavioral telemetry combined with like your media consumption and your purchase history, it feeds directly into the most resource-intensive centralized technology we have today.
Artificial intelligence.
Exactly. And this is where we see the ultimate bait and switch in the tech world.
Oh, the financial pivot here is fascinating.
Because when large language models first hit the mainstream, it was a massive come and test it approach.
Yeah, it was everywhere, and it was free.
The interfaces were free, open to the public, deeply engaging. We provided the interaction data they desperately needed to refine the models.
Right.
But now that the dependency is established, we are seeing enterprise API costs and subscription fees ranging anywhere from $30 to hundreds of dollars a month.
And operating a large language model at scale requires staggering compute power, so, the financial pivot was somewhat inevitable. But the text argues the deeper concern isn't just the monetization.
What is it?
It is the centralization of inference. When you rely on a cloud-based AI, you are completely subject to the platform's moderation API.
Right. You aren't allowed to use these AI accounts as unrestricted research tools.
Not at all.
There were heavy guardrails placed on the outputs. We are seeing the exact same massive tech conglomerates that dominate social media algorithms, either purchasing or heavily partnering with the leading AI labs.
Which creates a huge bottleneck on information synthesis. Even the independent AI companies still rely on the massive cloud infrastructure provided by those legacy tech giants.
So they have to play by their rules.
Exactly. They are bound by the acceptable use policies dictated by the server hosts. The parameters of what you're allowed to ask and the nuance of the answers you receive are all filtered through these centralized corporate risk management protocols.
It brings us right back to the database deletion problem from earlier.
It really does.
Our primary mechanism for synthesizing the world's information is now governed by the exact same invisible, centralized rules that can wipe out a user account in an instant.
So we are looking at a system where digital ownership is an illusion, human troubleshooting is virtually non-existent, our private homes are acting as outward-facing sensors, and our artificial intelligence is heavily gatekept.
Which naturally leads to the most important question we can ask about all of this.
Right.
Does the architecture actually have to look like this?
That's the million-dollar question.
Because the prevailing narrative from Silicon Valley is that this level of centralization is a technical necessity. They tell us that local, offline solutions are simply too complex or technologically impossible to scale to the masses.
But the author of our source text argues that narrative relies on a deliberate conflation
A conflation of what?
of technical impossibility with business incompatibility.
Oh, that's a great distinction.
Let's look at the networking architecture of the smart home, right? Is it technically difficult to assign an IP address to a local network offline and have devices communicate strictly within your walls?
I mean, for the average user, configuring a local subnet or setting up a Zigbee bridge isn't exactly plug and play.
True, it's not super intuitive right now, but the technology itself is incredibly well established.
Right.
Platforms like Home Assistant allow users to run massive, complex smart home ecosystems entirely locally without a single byte of data ever leaving the house.
So it's very possible.
It's totally possible. The reason major manufacturers don't build this out of the box isn't because the engineering is too hard. It is because they actively lock the bootloaders on their devices to prevent you from using open local APIs.
Because if you use local APIs, they don't get the data.
Exactly. They engineer the hardware to reject local controls specifically so they can maintain that telemetry stream.
It's the exact same logic with digital media.
Right.
Is letting a user simply download a DRM-free movie file to a local hard drive instead of streaming it really a technological hurdle?
Obviously not.
We used to do it constantly in the early 2000s. The capability exists. It is just intentionally disabled to force continuity of the subscription model.
And we can apply this to the customer service problem as well.
How so?
Well, the alternative to the frustrating automated bot isn't necessarily abandoning AI altogether. The text suggests the alternative is a hybrid model.
Oh, like using AI as a live analytical tool for a human employee.
Exactly. Imagine a human agent speaking with a customer. The human has an AI model instantly pulling relevant documentation, analyzing the customer's history, and suggesting solutions in real time on their monitor.
So you get the best of both worlds.
Yes, you maintain the human empathy, the contextual synthesis, and the ability to solve edge cases, while drastically improving the speed and efficiency of the agent.
And the technology supports this seamlessly right now.
It does. Companies simply opt for full automation because human labor, even when it's enhanced by AI, remains an ongoing operating expense.
And what about the ultimate lock-in? We talked about centralized AI.
Oh, yeah.
Is it really technically impossible to have a personalized, offline large language model running on your own hardware?
Actually, this is one of the most exciting areas of current development right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Through a process called quantization, developers are constantly shrinking the memory footprint of open source models.
Okay.
It is entirely possible today to run a highly capable billion-parameter LLM entirely locally on a consumer-grade MacBook or a PC with a decent GPU.
Wait, so it learns your preferences, it assists with your specific workflows, and its training data never leaves your local machine.
Exactly. No subscription fees, no corporate API gatekeeping, and zero telemetry being sent back to a tech giant.
So the architecture for a decentralized offline digital life completely exists right now.
It is already here.
It sounds like putting a padlock on a gate is incredibly easy. These companies are just telling us it's impossible to remove because they make all their money charging us a toll every time we walk through it.
That is a brilliant way to phrase it. The limitations we experience are architectural choices designed for rent extraction, not actual technological boundaries.
When we pull all these threads together, the picture is pretty stark.
It really makes you think.
We started by looking at how digitalization trades absolute physical ownership for incredibly fragile convenience. We've gone from, heavy shelves of DVDs to cryptographic tokens that can be revoked if a server just glitches.
Right.
We've transitioned from complex human problem solving to automated databases that treat our entire digital identity like a completely disposable line of code.
And we've seen how avoiding the slight friction of local network configuration resulted in basically all our household appliances reporting telemetry back to massive data centers.
And we see how the future of information synthesis, or artificial intelligence, is being pushed into these centralized silos governed by corporate APIs.
The convenience of this centralized ecosystem is undeniable, but the hidden costs are our autonomy, our privacy, and true ownership over our own digital environments.
I really encourage everyone listening to just look around your living room or your office today.
Yeah, take an inventory.
Look at the blinking LED lights on your router, your thermostat, your smart appliances, Ask yourself what happens to those devices if the internet connection drops right now.
Right.
Do they still serve you, or do they become plastic bricks just sitting there waiting for a server handshake?
It's a sobering thought experiment.
It brings us right back to that luxury apartment we talked about at the very beginning.
Hmm.
The one where you own absolutely nothing, but the landlord is monitoring everything you do.
Right.
I want to leave you with one final thought. Something that takes all these localized risks and scales them up to a societal level. If all of our media, our family photographs, our personal records, and our collective knowledge are increasingly locked behind these centralized, subscription-based servers.
And governed by those ever-changing corporate ethics and conditional access rights.
Exactly. What happens to our collective historical memory if one of those massive infrastructure providers simply goes bankrupt?
Wow.
What if the digital landlord defaults on the data centers and the servers are unceremoniously unplugged forever?
Just a total blackout of data.
Without physical media and without offline local backups, will there be any tangible proof left to show who we actually were?
That is heavy.
It is. Something to really keep in mind the next time you clear out a physical shelf to make room for a new smart device. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.